Well, hello, good morning. I just wanted to make really to finish off this painting because it's been on this living room table now for a week or so. And gosh, the screen is kind of a bit dirty on my iPad. And I'm using oil to complete it. I started it with acrylic. And then I put in the darks there in oil and some darks here. And I think I painted the sky in oil as well, as far as I remember. I'm just going to focus on the whole thing and consider what areas need to be generally made darker and lighter first. And then I'll see if I want to bring some oil into some touches in the green and things. I think I will. I'm wondering about deepening the tone of the castle in general. I'm trying to do something to represent those branches in the sky. And if there's any more detail to be brought in here, and you know, the contrast between the foreground leaves and the building behind. And there's some nice light here that I've missed actually on the side of the building that might help with clarifying. I think I'll start with that. Might help with clarifying its position in space. So I'm going to just gather my stuff around me. I'm a little bit messy the last time, and this time I want to just make sure that I've got everything that I need close to hand. I'm not rushing this time, but you know, I would like to keep a sense of forward momentum going. So yeah, I've got some masking tape here. I just looked at that piece of the architecture that's bright over here, and I thought a simple way of doing that so that it's got a clean edge like architecture does would be to maybe use some masking tape either side of the shape that I'm wanting to make, so that I can paint in between it then. And it's just about here and here. It's a real thin sliver actually of light, but I think it'll make a difference. It mightn't be as thin as that actually. I need to make it a little bit wider. Yeah, I think I've made that building a different shape. It's longer and thinner than it is here, but I think I get away with it. Oh, for goodness sake. I want these lines to be parallel to one another and to the edge of the board. Okay, and I'm going to make the colour by mixing burnt sienna with some white, because I think that's pretty much what I'm looking at here. That's pretty much the shade. It's kind of salmon-y colour. Something like that. I've got more burnt sienna in it than I meant to, so I need to dilute it with more white. I think that's okay, I'll just try it. There and there. Just some touches of something brighter. And that same colour seems to be in the foliage here actually. I just stipple some on and see how that goes. I mean, it's probably not going to read as being as light as it is, while the background isn't as dark as it is in the painting. There's quite a dark green back here. And I'm not so sure I like the kind of linear marks that this brush is making. So maybe I'll just find an older, more splayed brush that I could soften it out again. Yeah, it's alright. Maybe a bit of the tarps or the solvent to kind of lift it off pretty much again. Okay, now let's see. I'll take that off anyway and see if that worked alright. If it's doing what I want it to do. I suppose the bottom section of it is, while the top section of that piece was angled, the bottom section of it is flatter really, so maybe make it flatter. Down at the base there. And I'm just going to print it a bit so that it's not quite as dominant. A little piece got away there. Okay, now. Right, so that's done. That's that. And let me just have a look at the whole thing now and see what do I want to do. I definitely feel like this area generally needs to be darkened, so I'll do that first. I think sometimes you're better once you start a painting session, I think you're better just going with whatever reveals itself to you without second guessing it too much, you know, just to kind of get the ball rolling really. So I am going to go with that, and I like the idea of there being a kind of a diagonal pull this way, so I want this to be darker, you know, compositionally I think it'll work for it to be darker as well. I went for a swim this morning over at Gladhouse, and didn't I leave my glasses on the shore, so I'm using an odd pair of glasses now that I got from my dad that are maybe not quite as good for my, they're not my number. I don't need them to be as strong as they are, but they do the job anyway. At least I can see something. I'm trying to squirt out more paint, honestly. It seems to be one of those days. Do you ever get one of those days where things seem to take a bit longer than you planned because of some sort of technical hitch? So I've got an issue here with my ultramarine blue. The top on it is broken. But I think I've created a hole. Yeah, there we are. It's a bit messy now, to be honest, but anyway. I'll sort that another time. I just wanted to get out some blue to mix with the sap green. I'll show you there now in a second once I find the brush I was using. Here, okay. So I wanted to mix the sap green with the ultramarine blue, and then I think some burnt sienna probably, because I'm aiming to make a dark colour to represent the foliage here. So let's see. Yeah, it needs to be a little bit darker than that, I think. So I'm going to take some of the burnt sienna and put that in the mix so that it's less colourful and generally a darker tone. So that's blue, sap green. So ultramarine blue, sap green and burnt sienna. A bit more of the blue might make it a sharper dark. Alright, I'll try that out. And so I'm looking at the general shape of the dark areas here. And actually, you know, there's still some dappled light here, so it might work for me to leave some spaces to represent those light leaves if I can. I suppose a stencil with dots might have been handy. But really there's not that many bright leaves, so I can just kind of approximately locate them by painting around a few small light shapes. There's probably more light shapes than that, but I think I'm getting away with it. And then we're coming up to the dark of the building. And the bit of the rock as well is kind of darkish here. And we come up this area, it gets quite dark again. So there's a kind of a direction of the tones, the dark tones through the painting that I think enhances the composition for us a little bit. So my eyes are half closed here, and I'm just spreading the tone, the darker tone out in various areas of the painting. So hopefully it kind of allows it to merge in a satisfying way. I want to be getting caught up in architecture now, so I'm wanting to leave it fairly approximate, like, but I feel it's important to get the general angle of things. So when I am painting an edge, I want it to be satisfying and in the right direction for the building. Yeah. It's interesting, like I think sometimes when you go into more detail, you lose some detail or some of the strength of a thing. So I'm trying to find the balance here between getting the tones as dark as I want them to be so that the light will sing out, and also not to be going into too much detail that it diminishes the robustness of the things or something. There's something that changes when you start to bring too much detail into it. Just going to get some yellow out here now. I can see in the video as well, of course, when I scroll back where I could have stopped earlier, or where, you know, so it can be a bit heartbreaking actually if you feel like you've gone too far with a thing, to be able to scroll back and see where you preferred it. However, I'm still satisfied with this. I still feel like there's things, sometimes working through a painting too, you'll have areas that are working for a while and maybe not for a while, and then it's okay, it kind of comes back, and you know, there's a need to lose some things in order to find other things that might work better for the painting. So let's see, I'm putting a little bit of a warm kind of greenish colour on here for the landscape that sits below the castle, and just to try and make sense of the connection between those two buildings in space. And then there's the same kind of mustardy colours in some of these bushes down here. Yeah, I came into today's painting thinking I just need to do some final touches, and so I don't want to get myself into too much of a you know, get caught up too much in the detail of it. So let's see now. I guess one of the things though is to bring some of the cadmium red kind of warmth in. There's a little bit of cadmium red in this colour, and I think I see it throughout the painting actually, throughout the image. So I'll just spread some of that around in places. Oh, there's some lovely star-like flowers in here that I hadn't noticed before. But they're not going to be that evident because it's in the shadows really. What will I do now, I wonder? I think I want to maybe just finalise this colours in the sky. And bring some more brightness in there now that I've darkened the tone of the building a little bit more. So I'm going to use the same mix as I did the other day, making the sky with ultramarine blue and cerulean blue, and just white, then titanium white. So I'm going to just refine some of the edge of the sky here. It's very thick, the paint. I like using really thick paint for the sky sometimes. I think it's appropriate to describe this gorgeous vastness of blue. And that blue is seen through the building as well. Just need to make a little bit more of the sky colour. That's one thing, if you know you're going to be using a fair bit of one colour, you might as well make up enough of it. But you want to be sure that you are happy with the colour before you make loads of it as well, I suppose. So I need to go back to Gladhouse and see if I can find my glasses. We've got a few other things that are going on today, so it might be later on in the day, but luckily they were only $3.99 or something, but they're the ones I wear all the time. You know, when you find a pair that are handy. I paid £40 for a pair from Specsavers, and sure, I hardly wear them because I'm scared I'm going to lose them or break them, or so I've got those if all else fails. Erin, are you okay? Oh. Okay. I thought she wanted to ask me something there. She's heading to Canada on Wednesday. Right, so I'm just kind of filling in the rest of the sky so that it's flatter than the bit at the edge. I kind of like the edge being a little bit agitated with the thicker paint beside the castle, the roof of the castle, to kind of bring our attention maybe towards the horizon. And this is the arc-shaped dome that's kind of hidden behind the building. Okay, now, and I think that's okay for the tree there. I don't think I'll bother putting the tree in here because it's kind of, I quite like the shape of the sky, the clean shape of the sky between the two buildings. And I don't want to bother disturbing that with the bare tree in there, you know. Okay. And I think I'll make some of that. Will I make some of that bright green or not? To do that little bit of grass, you know, that's in front of the castle there. I suppose if I don't use it there, I might use it in the tree. Sometimes making a thicker paint the same colour as what's in the acrylic can make it still sit out as though it's brighter because of it being oil paint. So I'm just going to try it. So I'm using the cadmium yellow. I should show you what I'm mixing here. Cadmium yellow and sap green in order to try and capture the colour of the grass, the lawn that's here, you know. I know you can't see the photograph now, but it was just too difficult to make you to set it up so that you could see both. Not too difficult, but it would have been much smaller, the painting, and I wanted you to see into the smaller detailed things that I'm going to try and do here. So I'm just putting touches of that on actually, rather than filling in everything, because there was already green underneath, so I don't have to restate the whole thing, but maybe just add a little bit of brightness to it. We'll just get that branch back, and this one too. And down here, of course, there's grass as well. And it makes some nice shapes with the shadows of the leaves on that bush. The edge. I think I could do with a touch of white into the grass down there. It's a little bit more bleached. It's more that kind of colour. I quite like the edge of these dark leaves in contrast to the bright grass. So I'm just making some shapes that might represent those. Where else now? There's some yellow here that's not unlike the grass actually. It's a plant of some sort. To be honest, it's a bit more yellow than that, but I can come back. Okay. And there's some more here that's quite yellow too, so I'm just gonna put some more cadmium yellow on the brush and stipple on that. And then more white on it. And if I had some sort of stencil now, I would use it with tiny dots in it to try and capture these the leaves on this tree, which are small. It might be a willow or something, I don't know. But I want to capture the brightness of them, so I'm not wanting to spatter on some thin paint to describe these. But I would like them to have the texture that they've got in the photo I'm seeing. There's a bit of texture there. It's okay, I think. Just touching the dry paint on, really. It's fairly dry. Anyway, something like that. And I think there's some similar, but it's got some pink in it. So I'm putting some of the red into it over here. Similar kind of stipply thing going on over here. And some of them are kind of arcing, some of these boughs. Bowers maybe are arcing in different shapes. I just might as well try and do my best to give some nod to the different patterns of vegetation that are around there. And then there's a kind of burnt orangey, lighter mustardy coloured plant here. And I think that colour also is in the front of the castle up here. Could be made a bit thicker. And maybe a few more little touches of the brightness in the castle in different areas could be helpful at this point too. So I think there's another bit here. It's kind of straight up. It's a bit brighter than what I put on there though, so I'm going to get some more white mixed into that colour, make it a bit thicker and brighten it a bit. And for the gable end of the castle over here too, now what I've put on is significantly brighter than what it is really, but I just wanted to see if, while I had the notion in me, if it would work. I think it's okay. I'm just gonna, yeah, I think it's okay there. And then there's some sort of touches back there too of a similar tone. And on this one maybe it's not exactly this colour, but I think I'm getting away with it. The stonework changes colour, but I don't know if it would be helpful. It might only be confusing to have it all in different shades of dark tones. Just gonna sharpen up that edge with a clean brush now, because I went over the edge there, and I think the gable end is an important direction to find convincingly. I don't want to be messing around with the angles too much. And again, I just subdued a bit. If in doubt about the clarity or the architecture that you've done, you could just press it with your thumb and diminish it from sight a little bit, so that it's not drawing too much attention to itself. The more you try to get exact with a thing, sometimes the more attention it draws to itself. I'm just going to get the dark edge here to re-emphasize the direction at the roof. And the same here, I may as well darken that a little bit. Just putting a touch of blue into this R8, because I do think that stone has got a bit more blue going on as I come down the building. And it's similar to the tone of this wall here that hasn't really been painted yet. And to this too, but I don't know if that needs any more. I don't think it does. But there is, the top of the wall has a kind of a blue-white light to it. I'll show you now what I'm talking about. There's a very thin sliver of light. Excuse me, there's a thin sliver of light along here. And top of this wall too, as though it's reflected from the sky or something. And then down here the last one. I think that's okay. I'm not gonna try any harder with that one. Be fine for now anyway. Maybe that I can find somewhere else up here that it would also be located that colour. Integrate that, even maybe it's integrating the kind of quality of the mark or something as well, to make a similar mark that's here, up here, Again, just to try and keep it all fairly cohesive. Could be that the windows could have that kind of sky reflecting colour to them as well, actually. So we could stick in some windows with this blue that's on my brush, blue-grey. And again, subdue it with a printed, try and find a different finger. Alright, and I want to just increase the height of those chimneys. I want it to feel like the castle, without a doubt. So I want to keep making sure that I've got the right shape in parts of it. So I'm just going to make a dark colour with the burnt sienna and ultramarine blue to re-establish the chimneys up here. I don't know if they're chimneys. They might be part of the tattoo. I don't know what it is really, but anyway, there's some extensions up the way. And then I think these are chimneys down here. I don't know. Something sticking out at an angle. And here too. And then here. Okay, maybe with that same colour now dry on the brush, I might scumble a little bit more shadow on to describe the thinner ghost-like branches that are coming across there. Just pulling the brush that's got a tiny bit of paint on it across the lighter sky. See about getting a feeling of the lost and found quality of the branches, maybe. The brush is barely touching the paper here, and it's almost parallel to the to the board, so that it's only skimming the surface in places, touch and go. I think I'll use some over here as well, where there's a tree coming in from the edge on this side. Yeah, it doesn't matter all that much. Okay. I think I'm alright with it. I'm happy enough with it. Maybe there's something disturbing about the shape of that steeple, alright, but it's just because I didn't leave enough room, really. I'm just widening it a small bit there seems to help a bit anyway. There's nothing worse than something reading as wonky, in the architecture. There's one other bit down there that I think could do a bit of lightness to this area. And a thinner bit there. Now that does have a lovely bright. I think I'll use some. Who cares?
Yeah.
You can have the avocado that's there if you want it. Alright.
That's nice.
And determined to finish it so we can clear off the table.
Are you done already?
Yeah. Just doing the final touches here and then I'm going to leave it. I left my glasses at Gladhouse this morning.
What glasses are you wearing?
These are ones I got from Granny in Ireland. They do the trick anyway. So the reason I'm doing this now is to darken the tones that are behind this bush, because it's got some lovely bright bits and I want the bright bits to really read as being bright, and to do that to accentuate the bright bits. You kind of have to have some bit of contrast for them, I find anyway. I think the reason they read as being so bright is because of this dark foliage behind them. But I'm not sure if it's making it too kind of rounded and symmetrical, I think. We'll see when I put in the light. And I might just even try lifting out some shapes without painting just yet, but just using, this is a stiff brush, it's gone dry. And I'm just using it to create the shape of the leaves as they extend into the shadows, which I could later paint with lighter paint then, like. Yeah, I think that bush maybe goes over further. So it'll make it less symmetrical and more off-center, which I think would be a good thing. I don't want it to be dead center here, like as a little hump. Okay. I need to put out some more white, I think, if I can find it. Here it is. I want to make a light blue-green colour for the brightness on those leaves. Yeah, Lily, well done. I'm almost finished this video now, so don't get her excited, so she'll be jumping around. I'll let you take her in the garden. Right. Just doing these light leaves now to extend it over this way a bit. No, I'm not happy with that now. I'm just gonna, I'm getting too fiddly altogether. Excuse me. So I would resolve that. I think maybe I just need to, maybe I just need to put on some darker tone here. I'm not so sure about those yellows either. I was going to make them more yellowish, wasn't I? Yeah. And then something for the dark over here. Just kind of a brief section of dark.
Is that olive green?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't even look at it. I think it's wholemeal. Look at.
I don't know if it's got raisins or olives in it.
Well, it says on the outside wholemeal, I think.
Oh.
Read the package and see. It's bread from the storehouse in Pennycook. They have lovely eggs there as well, so I'm kind of dreaming of them now, thinking I'm going to have a nice egg on toast or something once I've sorted this. I don't know, am I making a dog's dinner? The bottom part of it. It is a bit dog's dinner-ish, like there is a bit of everything going on down here. And I don't know if I really need those bright yellow things. This is greenish down here. Yeah, maybe a bit of dark over there too, actually. Just re-establish the darks underneath those bright bushy yellows. suppose I'm wanting to give this a kind of supporting act feel to the edge and to the castle, and so that's I think why I feel to reduce the contrast down here again. I'm just going to do some bit of green at the top of this. Lily!
Yeah. That's really cool. But we're also seeing them, and we all can. But we should have like oh geez.
Right, and I think well, I just see about those flowers at the front. I might try one or two of them and see if they look really weird, because they're gorgeous little star-shaped flowers here, and it really dots, I suppose, is all they are. There's one catching the light here that's lovely. Another one there. And even some of the white on its own might be... Lily, can you shut the door, please? Some of the white on its own might be good too for the... I'm almost done. Light on the leaves here, you know, because it is really very, very bright. See? In places there's a real sheen on that evergreen. I think it's evergreen. It's got that kind of blue-white sheen to it in places. I think that's okay. And maybe there's a couple of those touches too, blue-white, back in that one that I tried to fill in and work around the brightness, and I didn't really work around enough bright leaves there, so I'm going to re-establish them just with the thicker paint in places to capture the sense of dappled sunlight there. I could do it being more green than it is, but sure. I'll get some green ones in there. I love that dappled kind of dancing light that you see on, I think it's in springtime especially. It's really, and maybe because we're so lacking in light at that time. We've been without it for so long that maybe it's extra special when it does, and we do notice it. But the way it dances on the new growth, the blossoms and leaves, I love it. Just try and locate a couple of these branches from that tree as well now, by painting the background up to meet them. So we're having a get together tonight for Erin, just the four of us, Erin, Hope, Lily and myself. We're going to do games night and just have picky bits is what they call it. I need to get some food from the supermarket. So agitate that colour up a bit because it's really a very textured, dappled tree, that one. Because Aaron's going away on Wednesday, that's why we're doing that. Right, the final thing I want to do here, I've just noticed there, is to use a brown thin paint. And when I say brown, I've just used the burnt sienna mixed with the ultramarine blue again. And what I want to do is to find some more detail for this tree here. And the way I did it up there, you know, just to bring in a little bit more emphasis, I suppose, to these branches. That they're creating something in this space here that's a little bit clearer. Just a little bit clearer. And in places I want it to be darker, so I've put some blue in to darken that tone. But I think it's helpful for it not to be so, you know, consistently dark or consistently brighter, you know, for there to be a lost and found quality to it, because I think that's really appropriate for the subject, you know, that branches get very thin and they're obscured sometimes by others. And there's another little tree kind of extending up over there too, here really. Yeah, so again with half closed eyes, I'm just a little bit like the dancing light and finding some dancing darks to represent the barren tree. There's a lot more of them back there, but they're not as clear to see. And there is a clear one here, but I don't think it helps to paint that in. I don't think that's going to be a helpful addition. So I'm going to leave myself, I'm going to give myself a license, you know, to let that out. Yeah. And last of all, with a bit of sap green into that brown colour that was on my brush, I want to just deepen the tone of some of the darks at the edge of this tree so that the shimmering halo of light is more iridescent even. Just holding the brush parallel to the board so that it really deposits the paint without it being painted on. It's full of green and brown mixed together, so it's hopefully going to give the effect I want. I think I'll just stop then, because I don't know, I'd say sometimes you can keep going with a thing and there's no need. And I'm delighted to have done something that feels complete with this, because as I say now, the painting has been on the table in the living room for the last week. It's kind of annoying with the oil and the acrylic, and Erin's got a big card on the tin. I'll show you. She got a huge card from the people she works with. Gonna miss you lots and lots. And they've all written inside, and that's lovely. Anyway, so there's, you know, today definitely we'll have our picky bits on the table, I think. So I definitely want to clean it off. Now, do you see what I'm doing here? I don't know. Putting a huge thick lump of sky on around that steeple. I'm not sure what possessed me there, but I just thought it was a good idea. Maybe a touch of it across the painting then. Right. Maybe I'll bring down the top a little bit. Okay, that's spring day at Edinburgh. And there it is now. I don't know how much you can see there. Just bring it down and up. Okay, thanks for joining me. I'll do maybe a scene from Gladhouse next, I think. I forgot to take my phone today. I was going to get a photograph so that I could do the same little thing from a picture of Gladhouse, you know. But because I quite like this scale. It's a small scale, and it's a nice thing to tip away at in the evenings, you know, or in the mornings, just to have something on the table that you can work away at, as well as working from observation, of course. Anyway, thanks for being here. Lots of love.